who is best to make an on-the-spot evaluation to repair the car correctly? The reason I bring this up to you is because you're going to be confronted with several different personalities when your vehicle is being repaired. One of them is going to be the shop that you spent a lot of time choosing properly. The other may be what we call number 2 here, the bill payer. That's a fancy way of saying the insurance company that's covering it.
Okay.
All right, and then number 3 is the consumer. There's only one person in this equation that probably went through or may have gone through all the necessary training to understand what is the best, most correct repair for your vehicle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Airing of Grievances. My name is Eric Reamer, and that guy right there is back. That's Robert Grieve, and hey, welcome back. It's nice to have you back in the shop today, and
great to be back.
Yeah,
great to be back.
You've been all over the place, and I know
more coming.
Oh yeah.
3 weeks of travel.
Well, we are grateful for you tuning in. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us for ours. And today we've got a little bit of a public service announcement, a little bit of a help for you.
Some coaching and counseling.
Yes. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and greet each other. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, my dear friends. Happy Saturday. Eric, thanks for covering for me. Danny, thanks for being here last week.
Yeah.
Great shows, everybody, and I missed not being part of it. I really did.
Well, we'll make up for it with today's. And today, Rob, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that go on behind the scenes here in the show.
Which is, the purpose of the show is to bring you real life what goes on. Right.
So let's have you set the stage, and then we'll talk about the issue.
Okay, so this channel works. It helps people, and that warms my heart beyond belief. Marty, one of our longest time listeners and a guest of ours several years ago, has his mom's car some other place, some other state.
Yep.
And need some help getting it to the right place to get it fixed. And I made a few phone calls and emails, and he's all set up, she's all set up, and they're going to be in amazing hands to get that vehicle repaired.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that. We say it often enough, but it stands to be said again. If you have any need, if you are looking for the services of a shop, and we always talk about know your shop, right? To go to somebody that you can trust. We give you the ways that you can vet those shops. Ask these questions, including what Danny gave us last week. So many of those things can be found on our playlist, and that will be in the description box below as well. But, the Airing of Grievance playlist, we're on episode 196 today.
Good job,
Rob. And there's a lot of information there, but we always say, if you've got any questions, give us a call. So just for the sake of completeness, there's the phone number. Go ahead, give us the call, and ask your questions. If we can't help you directly, we can point you in the direction of somebody who can.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about some relationships and some triggers and things that you need to be aware of if you are having your vehicle repaired or need to have it repaired.
Okay.
So one of the first things that we've always talked about is if you've done a good job picking out your shop, right? And one of those things is you want to kind of look for a certified shop.
Yes.
One of the trips I was on, I went out to Ontario, California.
Yeah. My old stomping grounds.
For training. And even an old guy like myself, we need to continue the training, and It's not just sitting in a classroom, although there was plenty of that.
Sure.
And then this is me actually out in the shop working with other people at the training, doing some stuff. This is very specific training for these specific Toyota Lexus products.
Okay.
And if you have one of those products, you want to find somebody that is very well versed and trained, that has the right tools and all the rest of that to work on these vehicles. So that being said, one of the other things that I do every quarter is I go to a conference called CIC, which is the Collision Industry Conference.
Okay.
And it is made up of 400 plus people, and they are from all different walks of the industry.
Sure.
There are lots of repairers there from across the country, best and the brightest.
Right.
There are insurers, the top head honchos of all the major insurers usually are there.
Okay.
There are vendors that support the industry with equipment and software and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And then there are the OEMs, the manufacturers of the vehicles that are in charge of the collision repair part of the industry for their particular brand.
Okay, so you get a good cross-section of everybody who's going to have something to do with a collision repair.
Right. And I highly recommend, if you're in the industry, that you go to these meetings. It's not just a good old boys club like there's people out there that like to call it. It's the latest and the greatest of industry trends, what's coming down the road as far as vehicle technology, things to be looking out for. I learn something every time I go.
Yeah, this is what many professions call continuing education. And it's, in our opinion, it's a critical step to being on the front line.
Yeah, what I want to bring up to set the stage for this conversation, which is really important for you to understand. During these conferences, several times they will do audience participation questions. And in this particular case, the question was, who would know best about an on-the-spot evaluation? And the categories you could pick from are repairer, bill payer, or consumer. Now, on-the-spot evaluation. When we're repairing a vehicle, or when your car's at the shop is getting repaired, there are many things that are in a database, the estimating database, like to replace a fender.
Sure.
There's really not a question about that. There's replace the fender, here's the labor, here's the paint, here's all the rest of that. It's not really much of a question.
All right.
But there are many repair procedures that need to be done that are not in the estimating system. And those are what we call on-the-spot evaluations. So the question is, who is best to make an on-the-spot evaluation to repair the car correctly?
Okay.
And so this went out to the audience of 400 people, of insurers and repairers and vendors and OEMs, and here were the results.
Oh. Well, gosh, if this was an election, that'd be a landslide.
93% of the audience says that it is the repairer. The reason I bring this up to you is because you're going to be confronted with several different personalities when your vehicle is being repaired. One of them is going to be the shop that you spent a lot of time choosing properly. The other may be what we call number 2 here, the bill payer. That's a fancy way of saying the insurance company that's covering it.
Okay.
All right, and then number 3 is the consumer. There's only one person in this equation that probably went through or may have gone through all the necessary training
Right.
to understand what is the best, most correct repair for your vehicle. And that's the repairer. And many times today, the insurer or the bill payer, which got 5%.
I asked you, who in the world is voting for the bill payer?
Yeah.
And it turns out there are bill payers in the audience.
Yeah. They are not repair experts. They are there to manage the claim, fund the repairs, make you whole, and get you back on the road. And they have no business inserting themselves into the actual repairs.
Yeah.
And this is happening more and more and more often, that they are like pretending that they know something. And you as a consumer need to be aware when you see these things. These are triggers. You chose to shop wisely. The shop is saying this is the way it needs to be done.
Right.
And they're the ones doing it.
Yep.
And yet there's this little voice in an email over there that says, not so fast, they don't really need to do that. Let me give you an example. We have a vehicle here that needs to have a section of the frame rail replaced. And the adjuster has an opinion. And the adjuster's position, so when we do any welding on a vehicle, it is set up on a frame machine so it is perfectly level and measured so we know exactly where everything is.
Yep.
And when we put something in place, we put it exactly where it's supposed to be. Height, width, length, exactly.
You use the word measured.
Measured. This machine is a tool to not only correct frame if there's damage,
bent.
But also to measure, like a CAT scan, if you will.
Okay.
It's a 3D look at the skeleton of the vehicle to know if there's still damage, or when you're welding something in, you're welding it exactly where it needs to be. Okay, so there's a picture of a car set up on a frame machine that has already been measured, and this adjuster says, as far as set up and measure, tram measurements, which I have allowed for, oh, thanks so much, is sufficient to verify if any rear body dimensions are in need of pulls or further corrective actions.
What does that mean?
That means that he wants us to use a yardstick with pointers on the end to make sure that the vehicle is square, and that's all he's going to allow for, even though the correct repair would be to put it on the frame machine, measure it, and then continue to measure it as you're welding in these structural components.
Right.
But he seems to think a tape measure and a yardstick is probably good enough. As a consumer, this should blow your mind. He's got no business asserting anything into this conversation. He's not even in the state. He's not looking at the vehicle. He's not responsible for the repair.
He's not a repairer.
And if we go back to our original slide, who is the one that is best prepared to do an on-the-spot evaluation as to what the vehicle needs for repairs?
The person
the
who's
repairer.
been educated, the person who's been trained, the person who has the right equipment, and wow. And by the way, they have all of the liability.
The repairer
Yes.
has all of the liability, and this person feels as though he's got an opinion that has some matter of some nature. And, repairers, please, you are the repair professionals. Do not, and there's so many shops out there that will just say, oh, okay, well then we'll just do this because that's all the insurer will pay for. No. You, the consumer, that can put you in huge jeopardy.
You bet.
And the shop will be in jeopardy. I'm dealing with a lawsuit right now that I was asked to produce documents on a post-repair inspection that I did.
Yeah, not a repair that you did, but
not
a post-repair inspection.
A post-repair inspection that I did, and the insurer fooled the shop, hook, line, and sinker, into doing the wrong repair on this vehicle to save themselves money. Now both the shop and the insurer are being sued, and guess what? their insurers like, what body shop? They're the ones that are the professionals, and they just got suckered into something that they had no idea was coming, only to be abandoned by the very people that are saying you should do it this way, even though that's not the right way to do it, and they have no wherewithal to make the comments that they're making.
Wow. And that's
Never trust somebody that owes you money.
Yeah, we talked about this a little earlier. You said you got to know who to trust, and then you said never trust somebody who owes you money.
Right.
And it's the you got to know who to trust has from day one been our mantra here at the Airing of Grievances, because if you don't know who to trust and you trust the good hands or good neighbors or whomever it may be,
Flow.
and they owe you money, well, what's in their best interest?
To save as much as they can.
Yeah.
And at whose expense? Your expense. And it could be safety related at the same time.
This is why we do it, because it could be very much safety related. And listen, folks, this is the message. Know who to trust. If you have any questions at all about who to trust, how about you just go through our playlist and see all the different videos that we talk about how to know.
Real life stuff.
Yeah, how to know who to trust. Rob, this is a critical message for our audience, and I think that
I felt that it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's twofold. Body shops, hold your ground for the guest, for the consumer. Don't let other people interfere in something that you know is what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Consumer, you did your best to pick the right shop. Doesn't always work out, but it can be corrected if it doesn't. But if you see these kinds of comments being made, I would be worried about the insurer, not the shop.
Yeah, and the comments that you're talking about are the little things that say, you don't need to do that repair. That's
Right.
not necessary. And it's always coming from the insurer who doesn't want to pay for that part.
Right.
And
And thinks they can get it done cheaper.
and those comments are a huge red flag.
For you. And I would recommend getting with your shop and saying, hey, I read the emails and I think I understand. Walk me through this and coach me on how to talk back to these people and make some sense out of it, because I believe what you're saying is true. But this person is paying the bill is not going to fund it, apparently. So you need to develop a plan with your shop.
Yeah.
And, if you take it to one of the insurance company's preferred shops,
You're never going to hear any of those.
there's never going to be any discussion of anything, and that shop may not even tell you how they're fixing the vehicle.
Or with what parts.
Or with what parts, what machinery, what equipment, what training, all the rest of that. And these vehicles are so sophisticated anymore, it is critically important. That's why I spent, a week in California. I don't work on cars anymore,
Right.
but I did then.
You do then, and that means that you have a knowledge and understanding of how to orchestrate what's happening behind us.
Yeah.
But the guys behind us,
They have to go through that same thing. We have one going next week
there you go.
for a whole week. I'm not going to have him here because he's out there learning all the nuances and the really specific things about Toyota and Lexus repairs.
Yeah. Danny Gredenberg and I spoke in last week's video, and I encourage you to go back and take a look at that, because he even mentioned how many times in a given year are one or several of our staff out doing the training that's necessary.
Right, and I don't get to make money during that time, and I don't get to repair vehicles during that time without that asset, if you will, that very special person. But it sets it up for down the road,
Yeah.
flowing through the system easier and better repairs for you, the consumer. And
There it is.
It's an investment for you as much as it's an investment for me, and an investment for that person that's going to the training.
Absolutely, and that's really it. It's better for you, and that's what we're all about here at the Airing of Grievances. Rob, thank you for bringing this. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you. So good to see everybody again. I hope you have an amazing week. I, once again, tomorrow will be getting in the car and driving to Nebraska to spend some time with the Nebraska Association and be on a round table with them and get to shake some hands. And so I won't be part of the conversation again tomorrow.
You're talking about the chat that goes on.
The chat that goes on live, because I'll be driving.
Yes.
But have an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you the following week. God bless.